Now it's okay to use reference photos as you start creating things in Illustrator. The thing you want to avoid is tracing straight over an image. So in this example, we're going to see how we use reference photos to create a sketch and then trace over the sketch that we have created. So here you can see our 3 reference photos. And then to the right you can see a sketch that has been created as referencing those 3 photos. This, using a reference photo, allows us to be as close to the original object as possible without stealing it straight from the image. After we've sketched and simplified our object, we can then scan and bring it into Illustrator. We can then use the pen tool to create shapes that are alluded to in our sketch. A couple things you need to remember is close your shapes, which I'll show you in a second, and think in shapes and not necessarily in strokes. My sketch looks very stroke-like. It's got a stroke on a shape, but I want to be more of shapes lying on top of other shapes. So I'm going to zoom in here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select my image. I'm going to scroll down on my layers and find that reference photo right there. I'm going to hit the little arrow next to it, and I'm going to find my scan, and I'm going to lock that layer. This allows me to lock that photo so I won't move it on accident. Next, I'm going to zoom in a tad bit more, use my space bar to move around, and then I want to start creating these different shapes. As I look at this object, the wing itself is probably one shape, the body is another, the eyeballs are 1 or 2 shapes lying on top of each other, and then the beak is another shape, and then the beak is a shape of its own. So I'm going to grab my pen tool, and I'm going to start with the body in the background. I'm going to click, find my curve like we did in the maze, click and drag to match that curve, find another curve, click and drag, and try to recreate this body of this pelican. As I come down here underneath the wing, we are going to have 2 shapes sitting on top of each other. So we can ignore this shape a little bit, and we just have to make sure that it stays within that wing. I can come down here, I can find my shape again and click and drag and match the bottom of this bird. I can find another point, click and drag, and it's going to drag out another curve. I'm going to find around the neck where this is curving here, click and drag, match the curve again. Under the beak, I'm going to find where this curves right here. So we've got a curve coming around and then a curve coming back in. So I'm going to find just halfway past that curve going out. I'm going to click and drag, and then I'm going to come and just go cut straight up here because the beak is going to come over this a little bit. So I'm going to go straight there and then continue on with my head. Now, I've pulled this guy a little bit too far, this handlebar, to match that curve. And so when I come in and I try to hit it here, to this next point, it's going to kind of, let's zoom in a tad bit, it's going to kind of be a little weird with that curve. So I'm going to back up, Command-Z, Command-Z. I'm going to come and start that curve on this head a little bit closer, and then hit this curve again, and then I'm allowed to come up here and make this curve come up here. Now, just like in the maze, we can curve this up, and then if we want to come back to this point, it's going to kind of jog around. So I'm going to hit Edit Undo. Just like in that maze, I'm going to come up, have that handlebar go up there, and then I'm going to click the anchor point, which removes that second handlebar. And I'm going to come over here and click and drag again. Click to remove that, come to this new point, click and drag so it matches that curve. Click the anchor point, which removes that extra handle, and then I can click and drag and make that kind of match that. I'm going to click the handlebar again, removes one of the handlebars, come over here, drag it out. I'm going to click that again, removes one of the handlebars and comes back. I can click and drag and make that kind of curved. Click again to remove the handlebar, come up here, make that curve a little bit. Click again to remove the handlebar, come down. Click again to remove the handlebar, and then this is the first anchor point that I put in there, and I'm going to want to click on that to make sure that it closes that shape. Alright, once the shape is closed, I can grab my black arrow, I can let go, and I can kind of hover over that, you can kind of see it. I'm going to back up, and right now it doesn't have a stroke or a fill. Okay, and that's why when I let go it kind of disappears, but as I hover over it I can see it. I'm going to select it, I'm going to come over here to the fill, and I'm going to just pick a color. I can double click it, come over here to the colors over here, I'm going to double click it, open up this, and I can go black, I can blue, I can do a lot of different things. I'm just going to pick any color for the moment. I'm just going to blue. And that's going to make that shape for me. That might be purple, I'm colorblind. Makes that shape for me. Now, that shape is now overlapping some of those other things. So I'm going to flip this so that it's just a stroke. I have to select the shape first with the black arrow, then come over here and flip the stroke. That's just going to give me that solid stroke with that color that I've selected. All right, now I'm going to come back again. I'm going to move this shape. I'm going to use my pen tool again, grab my pen tool, and I'm going to start over here. I'm going to start from the top of the wing. So I'm going to click once, and then I'm going to start matching these curves a little bit. I'm going to come here, I'm going to select that again, and then I'm going to click on that point, which removes one of the handlebars, and then click and drag to match that curve. I can click in this corner once without holding and dragging. Come over here, I could almost click once, and then just like in the maze, I'm going to go all the way to this next point. Click and drag, give me that curve, click that anchor point, come out here again. Come over here, click and drag, match the curve, click that anchor point, removes the anchor, or removes that handle, and I can come straight down again. Again, click and drag, click the point, come down here. And then this point here, once again, click and drag, and then I'm going to try to match it. You can kind of see where it's planning on going, and I'm going to come up here and match that, and it looks like it's going to work out perfect. I'm just going to close that shape right there. Once again, I can swap that now. Now I've got that bird arm, or that wing, and it's that solid shape. All right, I'm going to scroll up here. Let's do the eyeball real quick. For the eyeball, I'm not even going to use the pen tool. I'm going to use this circle, or this ellipse. I'm going to create the smaller circle first, and then I'm going to create the bigger circle. Now, with that done, I'm going to make the bigger circle white. And you'll notice that I can't see the other circle. So I'm going to change the order. So we're going to come in here, find that circle. It's the white circle here. And it's this one right here. If I change the eyeball, it will go away. And then I've got this other one, the last path that I made, and I want that to be below it. So I'm going to click and drag this down, and it's going to move that below that other eyeball. I can also click this path, or select it, and hit Command right bracket to move forward, or Command left bracket to move back. On a PC, that's Control right bracket and Control left bracket. Okay, last thing I want to do is create that beak. I'm going to grab my pen tool again by hitting P. I'm going to start kind of right here on this beak. If I start on this line, it's going to try to combine that or add a point. So I'm going to start off that line a little bit, right there with that beak. I'm going to come straight down. I'm going to come over here and make that curve. Match that curve there. Match curve again, go in the opposite direction. Come up here, I'm going to click and drag. And then if I hit Option, it gives me the handlebar, and I can actually manipulate that. I can move it, I can adjust it, and it's actually going to disconnect these two. So I can click here, and I can move that around. Then when I let go of Option, it gives me back the pen tool, and I can click and drag. I can come and meet these different points. I can come up here, and then finally close off that shape by clicking on the first anchor that I had. Once I have that shape, it's the white like my eyeball was. I'm going to make that kind of a gray so we can kind of see that a little bit better. Okay, I'm going to come in with my bird here. I'm going to use the eyedropper and grab some of the colors from this bird, which is going to turn out to be a gray, which can be a little bit lighter if I wanted. A little bit darker might help with the background being so dark. And then maybe this wing, I'm going to make this just black over here, this dark brown. Finally, I'm going to use this eyeball, right? I'm going to take this eyeball and I'm going to make it black also. Hit I for the eyedropper, and then I can grab that eyeball there. It looks like that's not quite white, the kind of the other part of the eye on those images. So I'm going to use the eyedropper, and I'm going to see if I can get that color in there. Let's zoom in a tad bit, hold space bar, move over. I'm going to grab that. It looks kind of a yellow. Come back over here. We kind of got that yellow eyeball. So that's the objective of this activity, coming through and making these shapes. You'll need one for the wing, you'll need one for the body, you'll need one for the beak, and then 2 for the eye. You can also come in here if you want and go down to the scan that we have locked, unlock it, select it, and then change the opacity down. And so you can kind of have this opacity of that background there. So we don't have to see that as much. And then we can go lock that again.